Viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I'm your host Faisal and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, Pakistan hosted a monumental event after 27 years, and that is Shanghai Cooperation Organization Council of Heads of Government meeting that was held in Islamabad on 15th and 16th of October 2024. It was attended by SCO member states, heads of government, senior officials, ministers, different international organization representatives, national and international media. This mood focused on economy, trade, connectivity, commerce, transport and digital linkages, combating climate change, agriculture productivity, tourism, protecting heritage and cultural diversity. All the member states except India supported the China's driven One Belt, One Road initiative and its connectivity with the Eurasian corridor. All the member states also strongly opposed world's protectionist actions, unilateral sanctions and trade restrictions. Pakistan emphasized upon regional connectivity and integration, but not through the narrow political prism. Unfortunately, India again opposed not only the China One Belt, One Road initiative, but also once again played a repetitive mimicry of the terrorism mantra with specific focus. There are lots of key decisions took by the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Council of Heads of Government meeting. We will discuss these in details. We have in our studios Mr. Musharaf Zahoor. He is the PTV World's correspondent and he has covered most of the specific issues. Along with that, online joining us, Dr. Waseem Ishaque. He is the senior analyst joining us online. Thank you very much, Waseem Ishaque sir. My first question to you, Musharaf, you have covered whole of the event in details. And so what's the significance particularly of the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's farewell speech particularly? I'm using it, I'm taking it at the first because it was very important in a sense that Pakistan used this platform also to raise the issue of Palestine, the crisis in Middle East, the West Asia. Prime Minister called upon the immediate and unconditional ceasefire in Gaza and settling the Palestinian issue with an independent Palestinian state. How do you see it?
Well, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif very effectively indeed used this multilateral forum, SCO, Council of Heads of State meeting in Islamabad to raise once again the issue of Palestine and especially Israeli barbarism, and he actually focused this issue not once on this multilateral forum, but he also talked about this issue in UN, and also we saw in past weeks that there was all parties conference in Pakistan, and in which all the political parties were represented, and they forcefully pointed out that Israeli aggression must come to an end, and for that matter the genocide of Palestinians must be raised on international level, and for that matter ICJ should be moved against Israel. And Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif of course represented the feelings of all political parties as well as Pakistani nation by using this very effective and regional forum, the SCO, and of course it was also very important that Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif also represented those feelings of the all parties conference in which Bilawal Bhutto Zardari had proposed that from now Pakistan should ask for only Palestinian state and
not for the two state. Definitely,
yes.
it was very pertinent, really, yes. Well point elaborated. Dr. Waseem, during Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Pakistan hosted heads of government meeting. That was very important and crucial at a time when Pakistan is actually going through a volatile situation. On one hand, Pakistan is fighting terrorism. On the other, Pakistan is picking up in economic sphere. So including the 7 prime ministers, 3 ministers and around 900 delegates, including national and international media and all that, those were present couple of days in Islamabad. It was a huge event after 27 years. This was one of the very successful moot. So what about the significance, not only this important meeting, but also regarding the national interest, especially when we are talking about diplomatically, economically, socially and strategically?
Thank you, Faisal. From my perspective, this Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit was a great success and a huge achievement for the entire nation state of Pakistan. The credit goes to the entire nation of Pakistan, all the government and the state institutions, and across the political spectrum and political divide. Each one supported and complemented each other's efforts to make this as a success. And if we see in the backdrop of last about 2.5 decades, Pakistan has been facing a very unprecedented security situation, especially on account of terrorism, which is still going on. But especially the years 9/11 onwards, we have seen a very unprecedented situation on our western border. We have also seen a destabilizing acts from India from time to time. So in the overall construct, this SCO summit has given a clear message that Pakistan is a very vibrant, progressive and democratic society and a democratic country, which actually welcomes the foreign dignitaries and is a peace-loving country and has a huge economic potentials. So therefore, from all accounts, this SCO summit has been a great success for Pakistan. On a diplomatic front, we have received so many heads of the governments and heads of the states. We've also received so many delegates from all these countries. And the kind of the agenda items which were set for this SCO summit, the way this SCO summit has been conducted, and how the final communique came out without even a single line or a single phrase change here and there. So therefore, it indicates that a lot of hard work has been put in, and Pakistan has conveyed to the entire world that all about Pakistan's previous misperceptions should die down by now, and everything has changed because of the successful conduct of this SCO summit. From now onward, the great radiation for Pakistan's progressive economic engagement with the SCO countries, with the Gulf countries, at the bilateral and at the multilateral levels. And we have seen many successes of Pakistan's diplomacy, as the Malaysian Prime Minister visited. Before that, the Saudi delegation also visited. And now we have seen the Chinese Prime Minister also had an exclusive visit before this SCO summit. And thereafter, we also had the sideline meetings. So from all perspectives, SCO summit has given a great opportunity for Pakistan to be mainstreamed in the international community with a great progressive democratic outlook.
Well elaborated. Musharaf, during the inaugural address, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif used the phrase, it's quote unquote, brotherly member states, then stressed upon economically integrated region without narrow political prism. So, and wholeheartedly not only invited once again for a well-integrated and prosperous region, but also invited all the member states, including India, that we have to have a fresh start. So it's going to benefit all member states. What actually you get out of this gesture, what the Prime Minister has shown towards all the member states, including the neighboring India?
Well, these are really important points which have been conveyed by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. Of course, he was conveying to the participant delegates that we enjoy cordial ties amongst us, and also he was actually welcoming them in a sense, but also he was through these points, making these points, he was reiterating SCO's agenda of cooperation and further economic integration, social integration, promotion of cultural ties, and also exchange of knowledge, and all those aspects which are part of SCO Charter. And especially if we talk about this point, the specific point, that narrow political agenda. So we see that India has been, as you have rightly mentioned in your intro as well, India has been stalling the process even of SAARC, which was a regional cooperation organization, and that could have been fruitful. As you see, India is the only country that almost share its borders with all the regional countries except Afghanistan. And you see,
you're talking about in terms of SAARC, basically.
Yes, yes. But India is the only hindrance here. But in SCO moot, you can see very clearly that that you have mentioned in your intro as well, that India has been leveling those baseless charges and talking about that terrorism mantra. So that is also very important, that countries should not talk about differences, rather than they should come towards those very points where they can converge, and this cooperation and integration can accelerate. And this part of the world which calls SCO makes 40% of the world population, and they are also contributing about 30% of the total world GDP. They are abundant with natural resources, and if you see these Central Asian states, they are energy rich states, and most of their resources are untapped yet.
Definitely, you are absolutely right. Absolutely right. But the Indian terrorism mantra was unfortunately played at the Indian media forcefully over there. Unfortunately, they have portrayed a picture of negativity once again, but unfortunately that was not well orchestrated over there. That's why that has no impact, unfortunately. And Dr. Waseem, if we talk about India's overall opposition to some of the very important areas, particularly the One Belt, One Road initiative, they have not only opposed it but tried to block this one. Beside that, the 9 members consensus on the China One Belt, One Road initiative. Along with that, they have supported its linkage with the Eurasian corridor and the greater Eurasian partnership between the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Eurasian Economic Union, and then the ASEAN, the Southeast Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. So is it because of the Indo-US or the Indo-West alliance, or the containment of China policy, or what else? What do you think about that? What's the motive behind, basically?
Faisal, if we see the white paper issued by China on the Belt and Road Initiative, that actually gives a prerogative to the recipient countries whether they want to voluntarily be part of BRI or not. So from that perspective, whatever India's stance is on BRI, it is fairly justified. But let's see what is the Indian policy dilemma, how India wants to actually balance out its positioning with the relationship with respect to the United States, Russia, and China. While we have seen that India is present in SCO, while China is also present there. India is also present in BRICS, while China is there. India is also present in ASEAN, while China is there. On the other hand, India is the fulcrum of US Indo-Pacific strategy, which is mainly aimed at containing China. And in India is also part of quadrilateral dialogue, which is a military alliance against containment of China. So from that perspective, on one account, India is having a good friendship with China. On the other hand, is having a good friendship with United States against China. So therefore, India is now in a policy dilemma, how to go about the economic interdependence, which is in the shape of Belt and Road Initiative. So therefore, what we have seen that India has been changing its position on BRI, because BCIM, that's a Bangladesh, India, China, Myanmar corridor, sometime it has been supporting it and sometime it has been opposing it. So therefore, the Indian position on the overall BRI has been facing difficulties and challenges with respect to a clear-cut policy. So therefore, India is actually trying to make
Very
itself
important
relevant
that
to
Prime
China.
Minister Prime Minister stressed upon that Afghanistan must have to be stable. In that contour, he emphasized upon the socio-economic development and stability in Afghanistan, urging international community to help Afghan people humanitarianly, their aid and assistance to Afghanistan, and also compelled Kabul to restrict and eradicate terrorism and the terrorist organizations who have took refuge at the Afghan soil, to have stability and to have linkage with the Central Asian republics and Russia. How you comment very briefly?
What we have seen that Taliban government has not been able to follow the in principle which they had agreed at Doha agreement with, on account of not allowing its Afghan soil being used for terrorism, but they failed on this account and on all accounts of terrorism. But China and India and all the regional countries, including Russia, have been trying since we have seen last almost 2 years at several multilateral forums of Kazan, of SCO, and trilateral and multilateral forums as well, to convince the Afghan government to do more on account of curbing the terrorism. But somehow there are two aspects: one, the lack of political will, and second, the lack of capacity. While China has a great economic interest on account of its soft power and more than $3 billion which China has invested into its mining activities, and China is also greatly involved in construction of road infrastructure and hospitals, etc. So the stability of Afghanistan is in the interest of all the regional countries and Russia and China and every country together. So therefore, the terrorism is a great phenomena which is emanating out of Afghanistan, and all the countries have to sit down together to convince the Afghan government that they have to do something more than what they have been promising previously.
Definitely, you are absolutely right, because Afghan Interim Authority must have to do some actions, and they have to do it practically rather just making the statements. Thank you very much, Dr. Waseem, for being with us online and well elaborated. Musharaf, how do you see the Shanghai Cooperation Organization decision to invest in regional infrastructure projects, especially the transport and energy project? That is very important, because energy cooperation development strategy 2030 is also agreed upon, an association of investors. When Pakistan is actually building up its economy and needs the foreign direct investments into the country, how do you see how much important these decisions are?
Well, these are very important decisions indeed. As you know, Pakistan's energy mix, if we see it, we see that above 50%, 52 or 3%, we use thermal power. We have thermal power plants which run with, of course, with oil and gas, and about 30% we use hydropower, and renewable energy has very little share in Pakistan's energy mix, and that is about 7%, and then comes nuclear power. So if we talk about SCO countries as a whole, we see that 30% of the total oil production comes of the world comes from SCO countries, and also 1/4 of the total world production, while 30% of the refinery of the oil refining industries are located in SCO countries. So in that perspective, if we see in a larger perspective, in the given circumstances, an international market which has largely been affected by war in Ukraine, as well as a volatile situation in Middle East. So SCO countries have the capacity to actually control the oil prices in the world, and they can develop their own market. They can also do some arrangements for monetary transactions, as well as they also can invest on renewable energy resources. And for that matter, China, if we talk about China is on consumption side, we see China is the largest consumer of oil in the world.
Definitely, you are absolutely right, Musharaf. Right now, Dr. Hassan Daud Bhatt has joined. He was the ex-project director of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Most welcome to you, Dr. Hassan. Thank you very much for joining us online. How much vital, Dr. Hassan, the decisions are regarding the transport networks, especially when we are talking about the railway infrastructure development, and the should be the green, digitally connected and equipped with latest technologies. SCO member states, heads of railway administration will also going to meet in Moscow, Russia next month in November 27th and 29th, 2024 to discuss further details. How do you see how much important this is, particularly when it comes to the railway connectivity across the region?
Yes, I think for China and also for most of the participant countries, they're building their infrastructure for seamless connectivity and for enhancing trade cooperation and interdependencies. I think in that context, the most sustainable form of transportation method, which can be environmentally friendly and can lower the cost of exports and business, is of course railway. And I think for that, not just Pakistan, which is focusing on ML1 through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. All the other countries are working on connectivity through the railways, especially China building a lot of rail network with Central Asian countries through Eurasia, going all the way to Europe. And that connectivity not just reducing the time of transaction between the supply chains, but also reducing the cost of this transaction. So I think railway or mega infrastructure connectivity projects are extremely vital, especially for not just for China, but all its neighboring countries and members of the SCO countries, I think. And I also think that when Chinese premier gave his 4 points during the conference, one of that was to have a 10 years plan for SEO and depending on each country's development needs. So for instance, Pakistan might need different sort of infrastructure for its connectivity purposes. Maybe the other member states would need different infrastructure based on the conditions that they have. So I think very important, and I was quite happy with the communique that was given. It talks about some of the challenges around economy, climate change, connectivity, and even security. And I think in that context, this was hugely a successful event.
So when we are talking about connectivity, Dr. Hassan, how much imperative is the decisions to have the SCO digital tech exchange, regional interconnectivity in terms of information technology, artificial intelligence, virtual or the digital assets, electronic platforms like e-commerce, e-banking, e-payment systems, cross-border data exchange, and convening some sort of a e-commerce special working group that is going to meet in China next month in the first quarter of the next year, 2025, sorry, to develop a draft program on the digital cooperation among the SCO countries. How vital it is?
Yeah, so therefore, when we give a 10 years plan for SCO and when the head of states will meet again, I think one of the major aspect in terms of, again, the economic connectivity would be through e-commerce. When we talk of the future and when we talk of the future businesses, I think the digital connectivity would be very important, and even the soft infrastructure for that, like optical fiber, submarine cables. These will be very, very important so that this seamless connectivity should remain. And also they will be important because when we talk of e-commerce, for me, it is so interesting in a sense that, people even in rural economies and rural communities can participate in the overall business of the country. And also women, which are mostly, especially in rural areas and some other parts of the country where societies do not allow women participation as much, can stay at home and participate in this business. So therefore, when we talk of e-commerce, I think Pakistan and any developing countries which is focusing on more gender participation, which is focusing on urban-rural synergy, I think for us, this e-commerce, this digital connectivity, AI, robotics is very, very important. And I think, therefore, we should also build our capacity to absorb such sort of business because our higher education institutions, our vocation centers should be ready and geared up to provide our youth, which is of sizable number and can speak English, most of them, can actually participate in this global chain of events which are taking shape through the e-commerce.
Definitely, you are absolutely right, Dr. Hassan. Musharaf, what about the SCO's cooperation on combating climate change? Have environmental protection, biodiversity conservation, effective waste management, and ecotourism under the SCO Green Belt Program 2024-26 and also the Environmental Protection Program 25-27, while technology-driven disaster management by using the space technology, the digital tools, early warning systems, and the simulation exercise. How do you see how much important it is to have a more focused approach on the climate change and regarding the disaster management?
Well, it is very important point indeed that was part of SCO communique that was issued at the end of Heads of States meeting in Islamabad, and as you have mentioned that there were several points that you have enumerated, but most of all I think the important point which I see in the communique that was mentioned was about contacting the international institutions. It means that SCO on its own is also willing to do many things, but it also wants to take along the world financial institutions as well. So as you know, World Bank and other ADB or other financial channels which are very important to conserve the environment, even for conducting initial studies of for environment protection. Like there is a 5-year plan for mountain protections that has been mentioned in the communique. So that program is of course would need primary studies how to conserve mountains, and as you know it's very important for SCO countries because the regional geographical location of all the SCO countries is interlinked, and mountain ranges are also interlinked. So environment protecting mountains would need a holistic approach, and that has been shown in the communique as well. Likewise, you have also talked about.
You are absolutely right, because not only the mountain ecosystem but also the forest, the marine conservation, the soil protection, and all others. That is also very important on that aspect, and that needs the financial resources. And when we're talking about financial resources, economic preferences are very important. So, Dr. Hassan, how much vital is to establish the SCO economic preference base, the cooperation between the trade promotion organizations, idea of creative and innovative economic development, and the new economic dialogue program as approved by all the member states of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, while Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif emphasized upon the proper action plans for their effective implementation. How do you see that?
The closing speech that he made, I think they were quite impressive, especially focusing on regional security issues of Afghanistan, and then focusing on Raza, and then some of the development agendas that are extremely vital as far as SCO is concerned. Coming to your last question, I think one important aspect in terms of availability of funds to combat climate change and disasters based on natural calamities, I think most of the countries, especially developing
Dr.
countries,
Hassan,
do not have good.
Might be the question was not properly listened by you, but that was related to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization economic preference base, the cooperation between the trade promotion organizations, idea of creative and innovative economies, also the new economic dialogue among the member states. How do you see that? And Prime Minister was actually focusing on to have proper action plans to effective implementation of these all initiatives took by the Shanghai Cooperation Organization heads of government meeting.
Faisal, I think coming back to what I was stating, I think what I was stating was that when you, especially the developing country within the SCO framework, do not have the resources to actually take on development, take on some of the agendas which are so important for connectivity and also for combating the climate change. So therefore, when you establish such a base, connect the financial sources and of course build funds around that, this provides a great support to developing countries like Pakistan, and also if you put up a plan and maybe a decades plan, because these things do not happen overnight. So when you give a 10 years plan, put a funds behind that, put a economic base which are integrated, and people are clear about their agenda for development and funds are flowing for that. And therefore, when we in the communique there was a word used for just trade, and that's very important, because when you do trade amongst countries, sometimes the stronger partner benefits more than a weaker partner. So when you talk of just trade and when you create bases like this, I think this gets great connectivity within the overall framework of economy and business connectivity, and therefore it enhances trade. Please remember, two things are very critical in this time and age, and as we transition towards the new age and perhaps the new industrial revolution: technology and trade. These things can provide and address a lot of issues, including poverty, and they can also cause friction. So therefore, when you connect these economic agendas for a better tomorrow, shared prosperity, as the Chinese may say it, I think the outcome is always win-win. And therefore, the countries which have, scarcity of resources can also achieve some of the miracles and connect economically.
So how do you see, Dr. Hassan, about the initiative which was mentioned in the communique regarding the SCO Fund for Development, or SCO banks, number one, and the second is that there were a lot more opposition on the counter protectionism under the WTO regime, and it was stressed upon that there must have to be a revamping of the financial instrument and the architecture to have the rule-based WTO, a non-discriminatory, open, equitable, inclusive and transparent multilateral trading system, while also oppose the unilateral sanctions and the trade restrictions, because those are actually hampering within the Shanghai Cooperation Organization region.
That's exactly my point, that trade and technology can cause friction also. And you must have witnessed recently the kind of taxes and tariffs that are being imposed on Chinese exports unilaterally by some of the European countries and even by America. So sometimes such unilateral action creates a lot of friction, a lot of problems, and actually is against the spirit of globalization. We must understand that globalization was one government, and that was undertaken under the umbrella of WTO. It was one initiative through which a lot of poverty-related issues were addressed. The world became not just interconnected; it became interdependent. So therefore, when you take rule-based agenda out of it, and the overall trade systems do not remain fairer, especially for weaker countries with less export potential or import deficit that they remain in. Therefore, in this case, I think such an agenda is extremely important. The West is promoting more protectionist under the garb of nationalism, whereas the East, and especially Global South, is looking at more regional integration. And perhaps we should guard this agenda of connectivity, so that we can make this a better place for everyone and everyone can benefit, as we did for globalization. So perhaps from a globalization standpoint, what SCO would like to perhaps recommend would be a more localized globalization, where regional economies are interlinked, and perhaps we have the investment fund, the development fund, which can look at each country's preference for development, requirement for development, keeping it within the umbrella of environment, adjustment, and perhaps sustainable development goals, and then provide them the support which they really required. Some of the earlier initiatives like Asian Infrastructure Bank, which supported the Belt and Road Initiative, were also established with the same mindset, and perhaps these funds and especially the investment fund, I'm quite interested to hope and hoping
Yeah,
that
definitely.
this
That is
can
that
create.
is
Yeah.
very lucrative and very important area in which I think so we have to focus. And also, you are absolutely right that the technology and trade, these are the both the areas which are very much important for the whole of the region to focus on. Musharaf, what's your thoughts on SCO's focus on climate-induced agriculture development, especially to address the crop protection, the high-yield maize, food security, water and soil conservation, seed development particularly, and the research on the climate-resilient crops? Because most of the countries are suffering because of lots of disasters. SCO member states proposed to participate in the Belagro International Agriculture Exhibition that is going to be held in Belarus, Minsk from 3 to 7 June in 2025 next year. So how do you see that, how much important this initiative is?
Well, it's important in a sense that as far as Pakistan is concerned, you see most of your economy is right now even is being contributed by your agriculture sector, and your about 25% of GDP comes from agriculture. So I think modernization of agriculture is too important, and what SCO communique has emphasized on this environment or climate induced agriculture, it's important in a sense that those techniques, methods, instruments in agriculture be used which can stand against ongoing climate induced calamities. And for that matter, you can see 2022 floods in which two of our major provinces, main provinces, where we grow fruits, where we grow vegetables, and all those crops which are many of them are cash crops, they were submerged. And after they submerged, even the rates of the household commodities were raised, and you had to spend a lot of exchequer over that to fulfill the domestic needs. But if we want to make our agriculture resilient, so then SCO communique is very helpful in a sense. There is a role model for us. China is a role model which adds quality to its agriculture products. We can learn that from China. Also, use of instruments, agriculture instruments, and what you have mentioned in international conference that
That is exhibition.
That exhibition, Belgaro exhibition. There will be many countries, they will be coming and they will be.
Musharaf, thank you very much. Musharaf, thank you very much, because we have run short of time. So you have well elaborated. Thank you very much for being with us. And Dr. Hassan Daud Batsab, thank you very much for your presence online. Very well elaborated and very candid views on the recently held Shanghai Cooperation Organization Council of Heads of Government meeting. It was 23rd meeting held in Islamabad, and it was really a great success for Pakistan. It has brought lots of laurels for the Pakistani nation, and we hope that this organization will be built more stronger in future. And as our panelists suggested, that it is very important that the trade, transport and technology linkages, integration and connectivity, that is very important. That is going to shape the whole future of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization region. We all have to integrate with each other. That is very important. And what Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has said, that economic connectivity and regional integration is very important, but without any sort of a narrow political prism. And we have to focus across the region the counter-terrorism. That is very important, and for that matter, the regional anti-terrorism system that is there in Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which we call RATS, that is also there, and that is going to be strengthened as well. So it is important that we have to focus on region for development, as the Chinese say, and the Chinese President say, Xi Jinping, that regions grow with the countries and countries grow with the regions. This is all from today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz.